their best evidence. They also believe in science fiction. This one blew my mind. A friend of mine told me about the first time he encountered somebody that gave him this theory, and then I encountered it myself. Some of you may know who Ian Juby is. He's a creationist in Canada. He's been here once or twice before. But I've seen this once on discussions that he was involved in and I was involved in. Once it was with a college professor, a guy with a doctorate degree. And once it was just with an evolutionist. He knew his stuff, but he was just a regular old evolutionist, no credentials. But I couldn't believe that the same argument was brought up twice, and you'll be surprised when you hear what it is. Now you see these two footprints back there are footprints of human footprints in dinosaur rock. One of them even with a dinosaur track on it, the Delk print. These are two of the ones that have undergone the most strenuous testing. They've the one on the bottom, the Burdick track, they've sliced it 3 different times. That picture there was only after it was sliced the first time. They actually sliced the heel, then they took a whole section out of the toes to see what the rock was underneath the print. And what that'll tell them is whether or not that print was carved out of the rock or whether it was made by something pushing down into the rock when the rock was soft. And the other one, they did the same thing with a CAT scan. They took CAT scans of it, and both of these, they proved beyond any reasonable doubt they were made by something stepping onto the rock when the rock was soft. It wasn't carved. There's no way they can. We've challenged them. If it can be faked, fake us one. Nobody has taken up the offer because it can't be done. The only way you could do it is if you had soft rock. Well, we don't find much soft rock around here anymore. It's cement. We make our own, but everybody would know that was man-made cement. These things are rocks. They know where they came from. They can go find the rocks. They're naturally occurring rock. At the flood, though, there've been plenty of chances for the right chemicals to be in the right places and create natural cements. Limestone and other kind of rocks are natural cements. Of course, today they're hard. They're not naturally soft. During the flood, coming out of a volcano or something like that, they may have been soft. Or they obviously were. Something stepped in it, left a print. As the waters of the flood are coming up, it would get cooled off and the print would be preserved. For sure they know it wasn't carved into it. After these tracks were brought up to these two people I'm talking about, the one professor and the other one evolutionist, a couple years apart, they both came up with the same solution. And it's hard to believe a college professor with a doctorate degree was literally, this was his explanation for it. We couldn't do it today, but he said in the future, we're going to learn how to travel in time. And people in the future are going to go back and study the dinosaurs 70 million years ago. And those footprints are from future people that went back in time to study the dinosaurs. And I kid you not, that's 2 different people have used that as an excuse. One of them teaches kids in a university. And that was his explanation for these tracks. Well, when Ian Juby was talking to him, he asked him, and this kind of ended the discussion after they went on for days and days, maybe weeks. He asked him, how come people from the future don't have shoes? And that kind of ended the discussion. But can you imagine that they have to actually resort to something like that to explain these things? They will not admit, wow, it looks like those things are real. It looks like those are real footprints. It looks like humans and dinosaurs lived together just like the Bible said. They don't want to admit it. So they'll come up with the most cockamamie stories you can imagine. And now here's an interesting article. They're looking for, they're doing this right now. They're trying to dig up remains of World War I soldiers over in Europe. What they want to do is identify them, send them back to their native countries for proper burial and all that stuff. And you say, well, what's that got to do with creation and evolution? Well, you'll see it's got to do with the DNA, things like that. The very next one, the problem with DNA that's been in the ground for 90 years, we're not talking 90 million, we're talking 90 years, is that it degrades in quality and quantity. They can't identify who the people are. So they're unable to send them back. They don't know what country to send them to or who they were. They're still unidentified. But we're supposed to believe dinosaur DNA could survive 100 million years. when human DNA. Now, granted, these are soldiers that were killed on the field, probably not given full burial, probably just dug a hole, throw them in, whatever, and their DNA is going to corrupt faster than if it was done different ways where it may be preserved longer. But as the first guy said, no DNA should be present after about 10,000 years. So these guys, you're going to find it corrupting and degrading already before you're 100 years out. You're not going to get 1,000 or 10,000 with any DNA left at all, let alone 100 million. But they insist. Now, I've got some examples here. I got about 4 or 5 of them here. That I've got dozens of them at home of things that just totally contradict this. They found this supposedly 20 million year old magnolia leaf, and they've got DNA. They extracted and copied the DNA out of it. Now, we just saw DNA starts degrading in 90 years, should all be gone by 10,000 at maximum, maybe even less. And here they're saying we got some that was 20 million years old. No, somebody's wrong. They're wrong about their dating methods. Here's another one where they found protein residue in a supposedly 50 million year old reptile skin. And it's really interesting here when you read this thing. They're saying that the 50 million year old skin looks so much like maps we've made of modern lizard skin, it is sometimes hard to tell which is the fossil and which is fresh. They can't tell something fresh from something that's 50 million years old. All right, you take a lizard, kill it, it's dead, and let it sit there for 50 years. Tell me you can't tell that apart from a fresh one. Come on. But they can't tell it 50 million years from a fresh one? And then here they found some organic pigment in feathers of a bird that they claimed was 100 million years old. Now, we're seeing these scientists, and I got some other quotes on the next page, that it can't last that long. It can't last thousands of years, but they're saying it lasted 100 million years. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't line up with the facts. It doesn't line up with the evidence. It doesn't line up with the science. And here we see from the same article, the guy that wrote the article, Professor Mike Benton, says, then how do you square that with the well-known fact that the majority of organic molecules decay in thousands of years? I don't know. How do you square that? Well, it's a good question. Maybe the millions of years is what's wrong, and what's right is thousands of years, just like the Bible says. Maybe. Maybe the Bible is right after all. Then they found some fresh seafood. They found a fossil mosasaur, a big water dinosaur, and they found dark red patches in the chest cavity where the heart would be. They looked at it closer and found out it was indeed hemoglobin, so it was a piece of the heart. They also found a piece of the liver, and they found bones, skin, original soft tissue from the eye, including the eye containing melanosomes used by the retina to scatter light. So they found all these soft tissues. An eye? You think you could leave an eye out for 50 million years or 100 million years? Or how old was this one? 80 million years. Probably not. A piece of heart? Yeah, go to the grocery store, buy yourself some heart, take it home, set it on the kitchen table, and wait and see if it's going to last 50 million years. Probably a day or so, you're going to want to get rid of that thing. But they're telling us that this stuff lasts for 65 million years, 100 million years, and that's science. No, that's fairy tales. Now we'll get to some more serious stuff.